here we are again with the Center for Education and Learning, the speaker series live. And I have the pleasure again to speak with Peter Maxwell Slattery. Peter, welcome and good morning from my perspective, but it's still applicable to you too.
Yeah, it just is. Yeah, we haven't hit lunchtime yet, but it's always a pleasure, Henning.
So as we spoke briefly, it's for this thing here is to learn about us, other species and planets around us. And I received over time, as I got more into this field of spirituality, of contact with others, and all these topics, also messages. And one message is actually, I got it when I woke up to do this with you again, Peter. And we will do today 2 sessions, if all works fine, of course with a break, but there's more. I want to highlight a few things. People remember, we spoke last time, and with the second question, I started off the question, and then there was the thing about the spelling. I thought also what happened there, but anyway, I just want to highlight it. Then, yesterday, from my perspective yesterday, I or in the time zone I did an interview with John Perkins. And John Perkins is different, of course, topic to speak about than we are speaking here. But there was 2 aspects in there I want to highlight. One was we will do with John another interview and to speak about what everyone can do. And of course, this will be also one topic for today, as we both speak, Peter. And sorry if I get here into a lengthy introduction, but
no, that's
hopefully it's coming to a close soon. That's the second thing I want to speak about or reference there with regard to that interview with John Perkins was I was having a note here to speak briefly about galactic trade at the end, but then I dropped it, and that will be something for a moment later. But just as a side note, for whatever reason, I bring that up here too. Then there is the thing about, in general, the people who are following you, Peter, and me or us in general. I received from you this comment, hey, this series basically, or what we started off is received well. I did notice, as I did not look so much into the YouTube, but later I did. Maybe you want to comment briefly on that, Peter.
It's just something that I get comments all the time, but when people really enjoy things, you start to see a bit more of a clump on it, a bit more of a magnitude of comments saying, this is really helping me or it's helping a lot of people. And it's not like we're the only people out there doing this, but I think different perspectives, and especially when it comes down to experience, not theory, though a lot of things I'm still theorising from experience because things are still being connected. I think it just helps people on their own journey. From the comments that I'm receiving is the way that I'm understanding it, because they're either stating that or that it's just helping a lot of people. So, that was sort of it in a thumbnail sketch.
Yeah, and then, to come to this, what we are about to do, I got basically the message, do it now. And it is something, it's kind of a message where I also shake my head a little bit. Well, is it like this and that? And it comes somehow from the place. And it is something, also I have to say, I'm in Denmark now, this week. Peter, we spoke briefly about it. And I will also reference 2 more things. I got actually outside. I saw a little bit, looked a little bit at the stars. And I did that also when we spoke maybe a couple of months ago. It was between mid of February and end of February I was here. I also looked outside. I got some messages. And as I said in the beginning of the recording, I get some messages regarding these, we can say here, shows, like we do it on the recordings here, also personal messages, also other kinds of stuff. But in any case, so the message was here, do it now. And what we are supposed to do now is, and we prepared it a little bit, to speak about, one came from you at the topic, to bring something up about starseeds. And the other thing will be about what I call here galactic contact and beyond. What we will do, two things. We will do one recording now, which we are already in, about the starseeds, and the other one in a minute, if everything, or in a moment after this, if everything goes right. Right, Peter?
Yeah, all good.
And then there's still, and again, bear with us, or please bear with me, some more comments. So I posted also in the SEAL channel, if some people have already noticed that. One is the Center for Earth Education and Learning thing on Telegram, and then there's this other channel. And I recently, just yesterday, again, from my time zone perspective, posted something about the history of Earth. And the Center for Earth Education and Learning, how that was brought up, was more through information of the United Network News network, so to say. And I also posted the link there. And I came across a version of our history, meaning history of humans and the Earth itself. But again, I came across this presentation from James Gilliland, mm-hmm. which he did in Australia, actually, 2016. And when I came across that, they basically gave me, I say it like that, gave me the message, no, post that. Okay? Though, again, I also posted there, use your discernment. There's a lot of information which was at that time accurate, and still a lot of things in the flow, as still nowadays. But anyway, I should have, or they told me, again, to reference that. And then still, again, the thing is, okay, we do basically here two recordings, and then there is still something to highlight. What I did last time at the end, I had that extra question, so to say, to you, Peter. That question, and I said, why is it like that? To highlight the things about the contact. How can we communicate or contact with our star brothers and sisters, mm-hmm. or with Source itself?
Yeah.
And then, and again, bear with me here. The thing is, I think we from time to time need for ourselves, but maybe in these shows and so on and so forth, repeat or come to a conclusion again and highlight something so that it gets a regular practice for the ones who come in, but also for the ones who are already familiar with these topics, to again be updated, be upgraded, be constantly in this flow of getting into a more kind of routine around all of these kind of topics, if one is interested or not.
Definitely.
Right,
yeah.
Peter?
No, that's good, because it is something that it comes down to is discipline and practice with a lot of these things. That's where, unless people are doing the discipline with their own practices, and it doesn't have to be exactly what we're doing, but if they don't do that and it's not a regular thing, these things can be very blasé or a second nature type event that they're not taking notice of, because they're not taking notice of their thoughts, the sensations that you receive, and in some cases even visions. But we can go into that a bit more, as well as even galactic history. James, as you know, is a mentor, a good friend of mine. We've been working together for over a decade now, and I think that might be worthy going through, especially with people can watch James Gilliland's video on that, because to know where we are and why we are where we are comes down to not just our history, but the temporal aspect of this, of beings even from the future that are even us, and off-world intelligences that are interfacing with us, but have also gone into our past, that, let's say, have amplified the situation that we're in today through manipulation or coercive missions to manipulate things, I guess, for their gain, different beings for their gain. But there is a neutral point, a 0 point with all this, where everything goes back to the source, and either way things end up balancing out with the positive and negative. It's a very convoluted thing to go into, but I just thought I'd add that there.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And I also want to briefly then say what came just now to my mind, this thing from last time where you said, yeah, of course, we tend to also look to the future, but the thing is to be in the present.
Yeah.
And then I thought, yeah, but it's also about the past, what you just touched on. But anyway, let's get into the topic here for this first recording, and it's about starseeds, indigos, and more. And you brought that up, and now getting into the first question. Peter, give us an introduction to starseeds, indigo, children, and more. You also indicated wanderers.
Yeah, so we could pretty much put these in the same batch. We could go back to the 80s, and there's terms of indigo children, wanderers known. Dolores Cannon again, I'll mention the 3 waves of volunteers, which are different levels of, we could say, developed souls coming here to assist humanity with upping its evolution. There is a flip side to this as well, is that some are here for, we could say, missions, that they incarnate to have missions. Some are here just to experience. They're the wanderers. We could also say that are starseeds and indigos. So when I'm saying starseed, throw the wanderers situation and also the indigo children into it. People can even look up online that there, I'm sure there's questionnaires out there or statements on if you match these things or some of these things you might be, and I'll get to the point, what are starseeds? They are beings that have had experiences in other worlds. It could be any, not just in this galaxy, but other galaxies. It could be the Andromeda Galaxy. It could be even in our own galaxy with the Orion constellation. It could be the Pleiades. It could be Sirius. It could be Arcturus. The list goes on and on. Lyra. So it's pretty much anywhere that's beyond Earth, and they've come here on a soul level. So we could say, had an agreement to where they've transitioned or ascended or past the state that they're in, and they've come to Earth to assist humanity or to experience being human at this time. So again, you know, there could be beings from the Andromeda Galaxy, the Andromeda constellation within our Milky Way galaxy, Pegasus, the Crux system, you know, there's all these different places, and that I wouldn't even be able to touch 0.001% of these places, because, you know, there's billions of Earth-like planets within our galaxy as well. So that is the premise. But what I'll say is that do not get caught in a box with this. And what I mean by that is some people say, I'm a 9th dimensional Pleiadian. Fair enough, I'm not putting that down. But working with thousands of people as I have now, and even I went through this, when other beings started to present themselves to me, which there was still, you know, a handful until I started wondering, am I from the Pleiades? And then I started getting information. When you identify as something, what happens is that rug will get pulled out from underneath you. Just like we could say even conclusions, and you were mentioning this before, I don't like to come to dead set conclusions, because usually they're stepping stones to get to where we need to go. So for myself, I had not just the Guardians, which look like white greys, but they're white light beings. Actually, they materialise as white looking greys. Then I had the balls of light that are blue, the Elohim, that turn into these light beings in columns of light later on. Then I had Shiji from the Pleiades. Then I started having feline beings. I started having other entities that are humanoid and human like us. That I started to even have my own identity crisis, which James Gilliland and I have spoken about much, because you start to realise, and your linear concept starts to get blown out, because you start to go, geez, I haven't been this or that. I've been quite a lot of different types of entities and beings. And to get even more convoluted with this, a lot of the beings that I have interfaced with are actually other aspects of myself. And then some are old friends and families, and this is what's happening with a lot of starseeds, is that they're having experiences with a lot of different types of entities over time, and it might start out with telepathic communication or a UFO sighting or a dream that's not a dream, that's off-world, and they can get caught in this box. And then once you realise that, no, I'm a cell of this one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness, and it's beyond linear, that I'm a multidimensional being experiencing multiple existences simultaneously, this is where the linear concept mind starts to get blown out, going into, it's a lot more layered, but there's a knowing that you can feel with this of how it works to an extent in the human body. Because some of your experiences aren't what they are, they're symbolic, because the brain can't decode it, because the brain hasn't got a reference for some of these experiences multidimensionally. That what happens is your higher self, or we could say the non-corporeal state of yourself that's overshadowing the physical body and the beings you're working with, will make an experience up to get through what they need to get through, that needs to come through in the human mind and the experience. Now, in terms of Starseeds, Wanderers, Indigo children, what have you, pretty much across the board, they are the black sheep in the family. They are also the black sheep at school, meaning they just don't fit in. Now, in some cases, you could have, I'm not putting anyone down, but you could all be the black sheep within your own family if it's something across the board that the parents are experiences, the siblings are experiences, and then eventually they have children with their partners, and the list, it goes on and on. But there's different traits with what I would say certain star systems that you will resonate with more than others, because you've spent a lot more time in those places, or multiple existences in those places. So you might be stronger with Arcturians, where a lot of the time these highly intelligent children, and even adults, that I find are a bit nerdy, a bit quirky. They remind me of Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. Again, I'm not putting anyone down, I'm just trying to explain this. Highly intelligent, they carry those traits with them here. A lot of light work is in terms of the way that they might work with Pleiadian types of techniques in terms of healing and clearing and what have you. They will resonate with, the Pleiadian stuff a lot more. But like I say, don't put yourself into a box with any of this. I've got 13 books, with 13th is coming out. It's too much to compress, but you will feel like the black sheep. You will get totally upset and sort of withdrawn from seeing the way society goes in certain areas, in terms of if you see violence, if you see corruption, if you see things that could be done in such a simplistic way and it's not done, you will see the way things could be done so simply, but they're not. You may have dreams of being on crafts or experiences with otherworldly intelligences in a dream state. You may have had some form of paranormal experiences throughout your existence. You may have always felt that there is an energy or a spirit or some type of intelligence that is assisting you at times, that you can either feel, or you will feel some form of telepathic communication. You feel like there's something major that you need to do here on this earth, but you've got no idea what that is. And I say that through passion, that leads to purpose, and it's not just one thing that we're here for. You'll always have this yearning and knowingness within that we aren't alone. You'll see through a lot of the manipulation and things very simplistic, but you'll also feel very alone. And this is the reason why I'm doing this, because again, I don't even have a list of this. I think in some of the books I've written, some of this very minimal. And again, look out there for, am I a Starseed? See if there's questionnaires and things like that, because we aren't alone. And I can tell people, like, I've spent a lot of time alone. But in that loneliness, through my experiences and we could say through the isolation, I've found out I'm not alone. And people have a hard time because one might wake up, the other doesn't, meaning if they're in a partnership. And there's a few ways this can go. It can bring the relationship together more with their partner. The partner that hasn't had an experience can think that they're nuts, and there can be a detachment, withdrawal that goes on. And, there's the other thing that people think that, the other's nuts. So this affects people across the board. And especially if children are going through this, I tell parents, just listen, don't lead them on. There's a lot of parents that will do things with crystals, this, that and the other, and what's happening is they're leading the child on. What I'm saying, you let the child lead you on. If they're talking about multidimensional experiences, you don't lead on. Even if you're experiencing stuff, or you can confirm some stuff, you be there as a listening ear and support. But also there's got to be protection for those children, because you don't want them to get thought that they're nuts by the authorities and what have you as well. So there's a really fine line that you don't want the kids to shut up about it, but you want them to be in a safe space to talk about it and sort of through their own heart know when and when not to bring this up. And that's something that you need to nurture with them, and it's a very individual case-by-case basis. But that is sort of what we could describe as a rough sketch of what a Starseed Indigo Children Wanderer is.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And I hope it's helpful. It's beneficial for many.
So do I. I hope it's digestible. It is a very layered topic, and it's great that we are doing this on a regular basis, because anything we miss, we can sort of go back to and amplify that and go down that route a bit as well. But yeah, I think people just need to do their own research. But the main thing with that is to let people know they feel so isolated, and then they get online and they become part of these groups, which there are some good groups out there, but there's a lot of inner fighting and ego that gets on as well, which is why I pretty much do my own thing. You're the first person outside of James for years, really, that I've worked with in that way because of that reason, meaning it's just neutral. We're all on the same page and nobody's better than each other. But then people get disenchanted, and you look at this going, is this very spiritual with the sling matches and fights that start, and then people feel more isolated than what they did before they become part of that group. But what I will say is you will eventually find your tribe, and your tribe might be spread out. It might take you a year, 5 years, 10 years. What I will say is that I've noticed the people that are waking up later in life, or in more recent times, they're excelling exponentially in their conscious evolution, but also attracting and connecting with their soul tribe, which is, we could say, other beings that they've either agreed to make missions with multidimensionally on a higher level, or that they are here to support each other, or a conglomerate of those and other things I'm probably not mentioning as well in the human experience. So we're not alone, but it does come into soul agreements with, having certain people as our parents or partners and friends. But don't get caught in the trap of that again, going, you can't make a change because that was your contract. There is free will that can screw up and mess up the contract, which is why it's a cop-out a lot of the time when people say, oh, well, that was part of the soul contract. No. As an extreme example, let's say somebody was raped. I will say, I can't say across the board, but there is a chance that was not part of your soul contract. Somebody else's free will and choice did that to you, and now you've got to heal and work through that, which, like I say, there are blessings and burdens. It doesn't mean that event was okay. But there is a blessing of you going through a soul evolutionary process through forgiveness and raising your consciousness to where you can move, heal, and work through that. And sometimes it might be something where you end up helping others that have gone through similar things. Because this is where there's a cop-out. There's always a cop-out and a blasé explanation to make something okay when it's not okay. And I've seen this across the board. And because there is free will, you can't say everything that happens to you is part of the soul contract as a starseed coming here, because a lot of it is not okay. So when people say it's part of the soul contract, sometimes screwed up experiences could be. But sometimes these traumatic events are not, and something dark, demonic, archonic, reptilian working through another person that doesn't know themselves and is in a lower vibratorial state and now overshadowed by something of a dark nature, now can possess that person or work through them and manipulate the outside physical reality that we're experiencing and create trauma to somebody else and now derive that energy from them. And this gets into, there is really no good bad in the end, just like there are starseeds, but in the end, let's look at this beyond that. Everything is one consciousness interfacing with itself. So just like I said, I might be interfacing with other aspects of me. Really, in the end, right now, I'm interfacing with other aspects of me, which is everybody listening and watching in on this, including yourself. So in the end, does a lot of this really matter? Because people will get what I'm saying, and they'll get to a point, how does this help me be a human now in the present moment? And the point with all that is, what are you drawn towards? What do you feel passionate about? What do you feel is purposeful for you to do that doesn't seem like work, but you enjoy? you're very good at and it's got a form of service to others. That's what all this really comes down to. But we need to go into little steps with this for people to integrate and understand that at their own level and at their own speed.
Thank you for having added that, Peter. And let me ask the second and then also third question still. You already touched upon aspects here of the second question. The question is how to tell if you are one, meaning you are Starseed Indigo children, or something else. How you tell that?
Testing,
Yes.
one,
Yes.
two, testing,
Yes.
one,
So
two.
I'm not sure when
Hear
we
me?
broke up, but I think the recording was still ongoing. You're back. And I was getting into the question, how to tell if you are one, meaning Starseed Indigo children or something else.
How to tell is pretty much, I hope, if you've recorded everything, that should have gone into it. The stuff that I was relaying about feeling like the black sheep in society, feeling like you don't fit in, feeling alone, feeling like some people will feel like they've just been dropped off here as well. Like literally, I say that in one of my books, I just literally, a few of them that I literally feel like I was dropped off, that my parents aren't my parents, and that you even will feel like you've been adopted. Dreams of a paranormal nature with otherworldly beings or with flying saucers, or we could say exotic machines, crafts, paranormal experiences. You'll have a big thing against violence, but yet you'll have a huge, let's say, energy in you against bullies and hate bullies and people bullying others. Seeing things in society that aren't done a certain way, you could see done very productive, and it can be very frustrating because it means, we could have 0 point energy now as an example, and that's frustrating because electricity bills are going up. We're using, technology that's, over 100 years old in some cases or more, yet there's stuff that's free energy today we could be using, but we're not. Same with the medical system and blah, 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 the list goes on. But there's a whole mixture of things, but loneliness is why I said going into this is the main thing of bringing this up, because a lot of people just feel like they're alone, they haven't got the resources, and the biggest thing is that they've got to go back to square one and know that they don't know what they don't know, and then they're now on a journey of not just rediscovering the nature of their reality or what we think we know, but also a rediscovering phase of themselves. So it's very overwhelming and traumatic in a lot of cases for people, because they've got to go back, and it's not saying everything in the history books is a lie, but you've got to go back with a complete neutral standpoint and look at for a case, against a case, and what in the case isn't mentioned on either side that could be a little bit of half-truths, or both sides being completely wrong. And that's the hard thing, is that you've got to go back and sort of go, all right, well, if this isn't real, what else isn't real? And that can be quite traumatic for people, but there's a lot of things to indicate those traits. But as I said, go online, look up things, am I an Indigo or am I a Starseed, am I a Wanderer, and see what comes up and look at those things. But I'd say if people are understanding what I'm saying already, they've probably had their aha moment. And if not, they may have had their aha moment way before ever seeing this video as well, which I'm sure the majority of the people have.
Yeah, thank you again for saying that also. And I think it comes down to what you said in the last recording, and then what we can say many times, the illusion of the separation. Maybe in other words, Starseeds and Indigos or others are still more sensitive. But again, our world was sliced and diced, and we were separated and divided and conquered on every level. And that means probably, in other words, also some of us, if not all, here and there feel, hey, what is going on? Why is it maybe like this? And we feel alone. We feel, how to make the connection, whether it's about the subject, whether it's on a personal level. and so on and so forth. That is probably what we need to highlight here.
Definitely. And it is dense here. The way I'll explain this is that when you've been to other worlds, had out-of-body experiences and what have you, where some of these things are just like, I've explained before, like life reviews, where it's like everything from every point of view ever is experienced simultaneously. There's no linear mind reference for that you can experience everything good, bad that you ever did from everyone else's point of view. And then you can even travel in those states of consciousness, the essence form, we could say, beyond the physical vessel, if it is an out-of-body type of experience or astral experience. But what happens is when you come back to the body, the way I equate this reality is it's like this reality is underwater with how dense it is. When you're in those states, it's so free. Your extension of yourself is far beyond out. You're now, like, even with us here, our light body goes right out around us. We might not be able to see it in the visible light spectrum with the spectrum that it's actually in, but when you come back to physical form, it is so heavy here, and it's not our natural state. And even the Starseed states are not our natural state. Even if you are a Pleiadian or a Sirian or an Orion or an Arcturian, Andromedan, you know, the list goes on, that's not your natural state either. That's the identification game. But they are there to work with, to commune with, but them and the angelics, or the avatars, the saints, sages and masters, you don't want anything else as your middleman. You want them to be the greater family, and just like your real family, you can take their advice, don't take their advice, you can be there for support, they can be there to support you, but ultimately we want our own experience to commune with the divine, which is inside each and every single one of us, which we're all a part of. And those things, the Starseed concept, the Starseed experience, these beings are all the greater family of man, but it's not the be-all and end-all and what we truly are. And these beings know that themselves. And if they're really in line, like I said, with assisting you, they're not going to, they're not going to give you ego trips and say you're special either, but they're not going to fix everything either, because we need to experience stuff individually on a soul level and sometimes collectively, like we are here at the moment, as well as having an individual experience.
Yeah. And then finally, Peter, how to cope with being one, with being a Starseed, Indigo child, or, well, something else.
A friend of mine recently brought this to my attention. It's something called radical acceptance. In a way, if something's not cool, it's like, be cool that it's not okay. Just because something is screwed up doesn't mean you've got to heal and just be okay with it straight away. Being okay that something's not okay is, being with it, moving through it, sitting within it. But it can also be a process where you end up releasing with things. So firstly, identifying that maybe some of this is resonating. I won't have the answers. No one out there will have the answers for you. They may have a little piece of your jigsaw puzzle and a little bit of the answers, whether it's getting a psychic reading or a soul reading or, coming to people like myself or others. No one has got the answers for everyone and is the end-all be-all. So what it is, firstly, is accepting, all right, this is really resonating, and researching and going through a series of synchronistic events which will not end until you transition. I can tell you now, I've been at this for years and I've still got synchronistic events happening every day. So allowing the heart to pull you towards research, topics, also people. It might even be counselling from people in this field, like Mary Rodwell, that's been at this for over 25 years. She's helped thousands of people as well, and is great at what she does. There's people like James Gilliland as well, and plethora of heaps of other people that if you feel drawn to somebody, they may want to go and speak to them. Because it's outside the mainstream of what we could say psychology and counselling, though there is more and more mainstream psychologists and counsellors that are now open to this, which is different than what it was 20, 30, 40, going back many years. So there may even be alternative mainstream counsellors and psychologists you may find out about and be drawn to share your experiences with. And in a lot of cases, people don't know why they've got to speak to people like us. But they've got to. But in that doesn't mean we've got the answers for them. We can point them, hey, you may want to research this, you might want to go and watch this about this person. So it's really allowing that pulling from the heart that's pulling you to do certain things and look at certain things and go certain places and what have you. That is what you've got to allow to navigate, which is different because you're used to the mind doing all this. And the mind's going to go, oh, but I'm getting out of my comfort zone. Oh, I don't know about that. But the heart's going, there's something here. And that's why I say we now know that the heart's got neurons. If we ride from the heart and we roll with the heart in our life, what's going to happen is the heart includes the brain. So that mind, everything that it's saying is taken on board, but it's from a heart space now you're operating on a broader spectrum. When you're operating purely in this, it's going to kick down the heart. It's going, no, that's too airy-fairy, that doesn't make sense. We'll know this already if it was real, but the heart opens you up, so it's following the heart to what you're being pulled towards. Some people will understand that, some people won't, some people will think that's airy-fairy, but each to their own. But that's my best advice. Go with what you're pulled towards and follow and sort of know that you're on the right path when these synchronistic events pop up, that 2-3 people in a week speak about the same person or the same place, or they talk about crop circles or paranormal stuff or a species of extraterrestrials or a certain type of angel. Start taking notice of those things, research those things, but it's a fine line of not becoming obsessed with it either, because I've seen a lot of people destroyed through the obsessiveness that can be caused with this. So balance with being human, as well as knowing that you're more than human, not just extraterrestrial but beyond that, is really needed in these types of case scenarios when you're waking up in a way that I'm describing.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And I would conclude, thank you for sharing all that personal experience, the journey. People who listen to this know more already about you and hopefully also about themselves. And I would say ultimately, everyone is unique. People, every one of us is unique. Of course, we want to align with others. Of course, we want to do this and that with others and relate. But ultimately, each of us has his or her own uniqueness. And yeah, Peter, thank you. Anything to add? Otherwise,
no.
To you in the...
Yeah, we'll talk in the next one. I'll just say that I think you wrapped it up perfectly. That everyone's unique. It might seem like others are doing more, even if it's on a public scale or with energy work or forms and different types of modalities, but we are all part of this. We can't pull off this shift in consciousness without everyone pulling their weight, and no one's more important than each other. And in the end, we're all one consciousness interfacing with itself. So don't look up to others, look to the God within, to that intelligence that is the spark inside each and every single one of us. That is, if anything is to be looked up to, it's that, and it's reconnecting with that, which is actually your true essence.
Okay, Peter. So thank you again, and speak to you again in a moment.